Kendrick Lamar went and did it. After being the biggest rapper of the year without an album, he decided to surprise us all with his 6th studio album titled GNX. This being a shadow drop was so goddamn cool because the most exciting thing about music this year was back in May, going to all of your friends to say, Kendrick dropped, and he gave us the chance to do that one more time. This series of tweets is one of the most legendary in history. But is this album any good? Kendrick is known for having one of the best discographies in hip-hop history, but it's entirely possible he would just drop something to capitalize off of the insane reach he's had this year. Well, I'll start off by simply saying I think this is a great project. It will be easy to compare this album to Kendrick's previous releases and go, well, it ain't on that level, but like, it doesn't need to be. Every time Wayne, or Eminem, or Nas drop, you already know it's not going to be as good as their literal best, but it's new, and that is enough to be excited by, and it doesn't need to be as good as their absolute best. This new Kendrick album has some pretty big shoes to fill, but it's perfectly fine if they don't fully fill out those shoes. Kendrick did exactly what he should have done with this album by going all in with the West Coast sound. Kendrick has embraced his culture and background so much in his career, and that's something he's been widely respected for. And of course, he took over the world this year with Not Like Us, his very West Coast Drake diss. This album is essentially a love letter to West Coast hip-hop. I love that this album features a lot of smaller West Coast rappers, not like nobodies, but you know, smaller, and it gives them a chance to shine in front of a much bigger audience, and they all kill it too. Doty 6, Hidda J3, and Young Threat, just to name a few, actually managed to stack up to Kendrick and hold their own, and they deliver a lot to the tracks that they are featured on. And that's pretty high praise because Kendrick sounds great on this project. The opener for this album is great for setting the tone. Kendrick has some shit he wants to address, but it's also just going to be a really fun album to listen to. I like that he addressed the way Wayne reacted to the announcement that Kendrick would be performing for the Super Bowl, because Wayne is one of the GOATs, but this quote-unquote situation was so incredibly lame. He also brings up Snoop's involvement in the Drake feud, which did actually cause Snoop to make a little response afterwards that was very funny. Kendrick's bars on this opening track aren't super serious, like on something like To Pimp a Butterfly or his previous works, but that's just not what this album is, and he simply says exactly what he needs to say. The following track, Squabble Up, which was previewed in the Not Like Us music video, is one of my favorite bangers of the year. Kendrick's swagger on this track is so infectious. I'm not someone that feels the need to get up out of my seat and dance when I hear music, but the flows and energy on this track just get me feeling some type of way. After that, we get Luther, a brand new collab between Kendrick and SZA, who of course have worked together several times. This is a very nice, mellow song where Kendrick raps about wanting a world lacking pain and suffering, and how the love of his life keeps him grounded and keeps him going. The chemistry between the two artists is just as beautiful as ever, and the aesthetic of this song is really gorgeous. The fourth track, Man at the Garden, is in reference to a story of a man that names everything he's done and the sacrifices he's made to make it to the garden, a metaphor for heaven, if I'm not mistaken about that. This song reinforces a principle that Kendrick has spoken about in the past. He is a believer that he does deserve the success he has because of the work he's done, the struggles he's overcome, and the morals he's upheld in his life. This is an interesting contrast to some artists that don't feel like they deserve all the success they have, or artists that think they deserve the world purely out of their ego. Kendrick is just a real man who stands by what he believes in, and this song is pretty interesting to listen to for this reason. Hey Now has one of the most unique instrumentals on this album, with an almost threatening and dark aesthetic. This aura is reinforced by how serious of a tone Kendrick sounds in his opening lines. The energy of this song increases more and more as it progresses, and it turns into a vibey banger with a great feature verse. When I first heard this album, I wasn't crazy about this song, but I really love it now. But the next track, Reincarnated, is my favorite on the whole track list, and one of my favorite rap songs of the year. The song samples an iconic Tupac song, further reinforcing the immaculate West Coast commitment on this album. This beautiful revision of this instrumental is fantastic, and Kendrick's performance is one of his best of the whole year. I like the way Kendrick reflects on artists he relates to and is inspired by whilst rapping over a beat from one of the greatest artists ever that undoubtedly obviously inspired him as well. The energy, the instrumentation, the writing, everything about this song is just perfect. And that banger is followed by another one of this album's best bangers, TV Off. Yes, this is the song where Kendrick shouts out mustard, quite literally shouts out mustard. I know I'm a bit of a broken record at this point, but this really is one of Kendrick's best straightforward bangers in basically ever. I do also like the themes of authenticity, but ultimately I just think the energy of this song is infectious and incredible. Dodger Blue is a surprisingly beautiful song about Los Angeles. This is a vibrant track with some gorgeous features and harmonizing, where in his verses, Kendrick criticizes the hatred of LA and highlights neighborhoods and communities within it that are beautiful and places he thinks of fondly. It's a very nice sentiment, and you can tell it's something Kendrick feels very strongly about. Peekaboo is a lot like Squabble Up or Hey Now, where it's just a hard-hitting banger with a simple, vibey beat backing it. The actual subject matter of this song is a little ironically devoid of substance. It's just the age-old argument that a lot of artists don't have meaning to their lyrics, which quite honestly I am tired of hearing despite the truth behind it, and it's a point that I'm surprised Kendrick made a whole track about. But it's still a very vibey song that's worth listening to. Reaching the final 3 songs of the track list, we have The Heart Part 6. Now, I'm the last person to say this, but the fact that Kendrick made The Heart Part 6 despite Drake stealing the title first is quite the power move. I just wonder if Kendrick would have still done this had Drake's Heart Part 6 not been completely terrible. This song is a very beautiful sentiment to Kendrick's early days in hip-hop, with a great message to Black Hippie. He actually takes full accountability for that group's collapse, which is really interesting, and it's just nice to hear how much he still cares about that. This is such a nice song, and a more than worthy continuation of the Heart series. Next up is finally the title track of the album, GNX. This is such a straightforward hip-hop song where Kendrick and all the features state and establish their dominance in hip-hop as a sport. It's very braggadocious and very unapologetic. Like I said, I really respect all the lesser-known West Coast artists getting their time to shine on this track and the rest of the project. They all do genuinely fantastic on this song. Lastly, the closing track of GNX is Gloria, also featuring SZA. This is a remarkably beautiful song about love and the complexity of such a feeling, almost definitely about and dedicated to Kendrick's partner. SZA's chorus is outstanding, the tone of Kendrick's voice is gorgeous, and the overall aesthetic of this whole song is incredible, and in my opinion, makes a great conclusion to a great album. Like I said at the start of this video, it'll be easy to compare this album to Kendrick's previous work and comment on how it's not as deep and thorough or lacks some of the more important commentary on societal issues, but first of all, there's still quite a bit of that. Kendrick very much delves into his beliefs and what he stands for all over this record. But also, in a way, this is kind of just a better Damn to me. Damn is the most radio-friendly Kendrick album, but it still manages to have that substance that he's known for. I think GNX does that even better. The bangers upon bangers on this album are ones I will be rocking out to for ages, and I am also still able to appreciate the thoughtful words that Kendrick puts out into the world. I don't mind that this album isn't a perfect masterpiece like GKMC or T-Pab, because it does exactly what Kendrick should have done at this point in his career, and it did exactly that excellently. I think this album is a 9 out of 10, I loved it, and that'll be all from me.